G'day, welcome back. This is lesson 3, the process of socialization. Don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. Highlighting and dating up the top there for your syllabus dot point and lesson. So what we're going to look at today is this concept of socialization. It's a core theme that runs throughout this whole topic, and it is a really good concept to understand moving forward. It's one that features in the rest of this topic, but even in the third topic towards intercultural communication, when we start to look at different cultures a bit more in depth, this process of socialization is a very important thing to understand. So, without further ado, here we go. The process of socialization is learning about the social world and cultural world, if you would, can you add that, social and cultural world, by gaining knowledge and understanding of its rules and expectations in order to become a functioning and active member of society. So a little bit to unpack there. So socialization, think of it as growing up, understanding that as you grow up, you need to learn certain rules and certain expectations of society in order to survive, quite literally. So the idea of functioning here has a basic thing of survival. So as you're growing up, you need to be taught, I guess, what the right and wrong thing is to do according to our society. So your parents are teaching you laws, you're learning that even as a lot of you are driving right now, the appropriate way to drive, the expectations around that. But a lot of it is around the social expectations of how to work with other people. Okay, using your manners, saying please and thank you, those basics you learn as a kid. But then as it grows up, it becomes more nuanced. Treat other people how you would like to be treated. So there's the sort of, I guess, the official socialization process where you're learning the rules and the laws of society. But then there's the unofficial thing where you're learning about the expectations of society. So there's no actual law saying that you have to be polite and say please and thank you or anything like that, but it is a very strong social expectation that is grounded in our culture. And I guess that's why I wanted to add cultural world up here as well. So you've got the social world, which is really teaching you, almost think about it like the authority elements of a society that it needs. You've got to pay your taxes. In order to live in a house, you need to pay rent or have a mortgage. All those sorts of things are part of the social metric of socialization that you need to learn growing up, what these rules are in order to become a functioning member of society, base survival. But then you also need to understand the cultural expectations that pertain to that so that you can become an active member of society as well. Okay, and be able to thrive, because you don't necessarily have to do these expectations, but if you don't adhere to some of the really main and big ones, then in any society you're going to struggle to conform to a certain level and be active in society. So socialization is about learning about all those processes, rules, norms, and expectations. However, we can divide this into two parts, which is here. So socialization is divided. There is primary socialization and secondary socialization. So primary socialization is the knowledge we gain from our family. So at very much a micro level, if you want to add that as a little note there. This usually shapes our most important beliefs and values. So your family growing up, I think we touched on this a little bit in last lesson, but everyone's family has that one core rule. So for example, it might be treat other people how you would like to be treated yourself. Now, you might not always do that with your family, especially brothers and sisters or parents who can get on your nerves a lot. But the core values that you learn from family, a lot of the time, they can be positive or negative too, but a lot of the time it's things like the basic ones is like sharing, learning to share with your siblings, using your manners when you're asking for things, the idea of checking permission from your parents before you do anything, which can be a bit tense when you come to your age, when you're very close to being an adult. But it could be some negative things too that you can learn that might shape your beliefs and values too. So the experiences that you've had growing up from parents or siblings or any family members, they might shape what you do not want to do based on that. So you can learn lessons either way. And that's your main primary one, is what you learn from your parents and close immediate family. Secondary socialization is everything else. So this includes influences outside of the family, so things like your peers, Religion is a big part for families who are religious and attend rituals weekly. School is a massive secondary socialisation agent. It is compulsory in our country that you go to school once you hit a certain age, or between a certain age bracket of 6 to 17, I believe. So that's a huge secondary socialisation agent, because school is almost like a second parent in a lot of ways. We are teaching you, I guess, the main role of school. Well, it's really complicated. I guess officially what school has to do is we have a syllabus, we have to teach you these core dot points, we're accountable for that. That's part of your formal education process. But the unofficial sort of part of school, and you might remember back from your primary school, it's things like lining up before you get in the classroom, standing behind your seat, tucking your chair in, learning how to share, asking your please and thank you of your teacher, putting your hand up, waiting for your turn to speak. So all of these hidden sort of things that school teaches you as and that's why I kind of refer to them sort of as kind of the second parent, is really important, and it's huge because we're teaching all those things and supplementing what your parents have taught you. And to some extent we're also sort of trying to shape and mold you so that if we go back to this point, how do you become a functioning and active member of society? School's kind of like the test run for the real world, where you're going to go out into the workplace and find a job. You've got to be able to interact and work with people that you don't like. You're going to have that boss that you hate, and that could relate. And I guess you get all this practice right in school with those people in your class that drive you mad, or that teacher that you just don't see eye to eye with, or whatever it is. You got to learn how to wrestle with those things, and that's really part of the hidden part of socialization. So that's one. But one that's become really prevalent is the media. Over time, this influence has become much stronger due to the increased exposure that you have to these secondary influences such as social media. So, and that's exposure to all of these things too. So your family, I'm not trying to downplay anyone's family here at all. Family is still the primary number one thing, but it used to be different in the way that family had a much bigger role. So say, what I mean is, today with things like social media and technology, you guys are exposed to a different way of doing things at a much more frequent rate than even I growing up, and we're technically part of the same generation, which is a little bit, anyway. But even in our generation's lifetime, it has changed astronomically. But the idea that you are exposed to literally the whole world at your fingertips, particularly through social media, where you can see a lot of people's values and beliefs on things, you can read different things, watch a lot of videos, learn so much. So it's a really powerful tool. But that exposure is huge, even with peers. There's a lot more opportunity for you guys to engage with your peers. You know, for me, growing up when I was a lad, so social media for me only really became a thing in high school, but during my primary school it was very much about, I had that one or two close friends that I would hang out with, but then even then it was just hanging out with my brothers and sisters a lot of the time. Whereas now, because you're so interconnected, you've got so many social groups that you can communicate with, go out and hang out with, which is really cool and good to some extent, but it's just changed the amount of exposure that you have to that over time. So no longer is the parent the absolute sort of sole former of your identity anymore. You have so many other influences now than you didn't used to have. And look, there's pros and cons to it all. So leads us to our third point. So the impact of these agents of socialization. So agents simply means taking on a role of something. So an agent of socialization can be your parents, an agent can be school, an agent of socialization can be your workplace, it can be religion, whatever it is. It's someone that takes an active role in something. So in this case, socialization. So the impact of these agents of socialization is ongoing. So above this, you can write continuity as a concept. As we encounter new situations throughout our lives where we must adapt to new rules and expectations depending on the concurrent life stage. So for example, adulthood, the rules that apply to you currently are not the same as an adult. You're getting very close to that, And then the same rules that apply to you don't apply to a toddler. Like, I wouldn't expect my son at the moment, although he can do it better than some teenagers at the moment, but I'm not expecting him to tuck his chair in. I'm not expecting him to make his bed. I'm not expecting him to do things that someone your age may be expected to do, because he just honestly at the moment doesn't have the capacity. So these new rules and expectations increase with age, and they change depending on your position too. Like, the socialization process, whether you younger or older, can very much change. So like with adulthood, once you become 18, you're legally responsible for yourself. Your parents are no longer. You're still like a young adult, you would say, because like I'm what, 27. I still don't even know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So those life stages change, and the socialization expectations change along with them. So these roles, norms, and values, they become internalized and part of our identity and how we present ourselves to the macro and meso world moving forward. And so it's all shaped by this process of socialization. And sometimes it can be painful growing up, as this poor pup has realised. Things don't work how they used to, you can't fit in the same clothes, start getting a bit older. But that's okay. Alright, next activity is a mind map of socialization agents. So what I would like you to do is, these are all the different socialization agents that our syllabus looks at. So there are plenty more in the world, but these are just the ones the syllabus kind of stipulates, so we're going to focus on them. So I want us to mind map these socialization agents around here. I would like you to highlight them, whether they are a micro, meso, or macro socialization agent, in a different color. And then once you have done that, I would like you to provide an example, just a brief example, of how they shape your identity. So let's look at family, for example. We might do family, branch out. We would highlight them as a micro level socialization agent, and an example of how they shape their identity might be parents teaching you core beliefs and values. That's it. Boom. Example done. Go around and do that with the rest of each of these socialization agents. Thanks so much.